I'm on the scene right now where police say gunman James T. Hodgkinson lived. His home is right behind me here in Belleville, Illinois. FBI have been searching the home all morning and afternoon. They are definitely in shock. You have heard from officials to students, but there is so much more on the parent end of this that you haven't heard a whole lot about. They say it was their worst nightmare. Well, Sean, while protesters had their voices heard, so did the Republicans. Not long ago, the Republicans held a news conference about an amendment to the funding bill for schools. I'll show you kind of over here what happened. So a car was heading north on Franklin Street, and the Macon County Sheriffs were chasing that car. It was an apparent wanted person. And then cars going north down Franklin runs this red light here and hits this car who had the right of way. Right now at Life Foursquare Church, you can see back behind me here that volunteers are gathering around the flag man. I don't know, there he is off to the side there. That's right, last night around 10 p.m., Decatur police found 2 men dead in the Park City neighborhood. Police say they responded to a call of shots fired. The 17-year-old accused of murder is Zachary Farrago. He is 2-year-old Justin Lee Murphy's Jr.'s uncle. A new Snapchat update rolled out last week, and while it has some benefits, it's also causing quite a bit of concern. 4 Decatur women were leaving lock, stock, and barrel and walked just down the street to this parking lot, which is where their car was parked. That's when a man armed with a handgun approached. Items on a student's school supply list like pencils, glue, and erasers can add up to a pretty big price. But parents aren't the only ones with a hefty school shopping list. Though the festival's main purpose might be to bring the community together, most people are coming for the main attraction, which is the sweet corn. Even though the quotes in the pictures are aimed at students, the community had to get in on the fun too. I'll tell you what, we've been doing savory foods all day. I've never had one of these, so I'm gonna try one.
Oh, now Sean gets these every.
It sounded like someone was slamming books on a table or something, and then you just hear like screams.
Multiple gunshots rang out from Mattoon High School right around 11:30 a.m. on Wednesday, and a teacher is now being called a hero after helping disarm the shooter.
The lives were saved by the quick response of a teacher here, and I think that's what needs to be noted. And she's been trained obviously, but in these scenarios, you just don't know what's going to happen until it happens. And with a quick response of the teacher, if that teacher had not responded as quickly as they had, I think the situation would have been a lot different.
The student shot rounds in the school cafeteria and wounded 1 student who was taken to a local hospital.
With permission from his father, I can share that his son is smiling, in stable condition, in good spirits, and joked about catching some slack on his grades. The victim's father also asked that I pass along his prayers for the shooter's family.
Students described the scene as scary and chaotic.
But all of us just ran as fast as we could. It was horrifying.
From the outside looking in, parents of students lived their worst nightmare.
She's like, Mom, there was a shooting here. I'm like, well, are you okay? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, where are you at? She's like, I'm out here by the cornfield. Because they had him go out on the far west side of the school. I'm like, well, where are you guys? It was just, you don't know what to say, you don't know what to think, as long as you know that they're okay as a parent. I mean, this is a parent's worst nightmare.
Mattoon police say the suspected shooter is in custody.
He had used a favorite barrel of his hunting shotgun to rape me at 12.
Sex trafficking.
My value was the price of a couple of beers.
Patricia McKnight still struggles decades after her stepfather and his friends sexually assaulted her.
It was my 11th birthday. They had fed me vodka, double vodka and orange juice all day. And a couple of guys came in to shoot pool, and I was asked, which one do you think is cute? As a young girl, 11-year-old girl, already sexually stimulated by what had been going on for quite some time, of course I pointed to one, and when I did, he went over and he offered me out for the price of a couple of beers.
Patricia says her mother knew what was going on, but did nothing to help.
I felt a heavy burden of being to blame for this, that I allowed it. And that's a term that my mother used whenever I had confronted her.
Patricia says she spent her childhood alone and terrified of her stepfather.
He was a coal miner, and his hands were real thick, and they were always covered with coal dust, and he would cover my mouth, and he would just squeeze my jaw, and he literally stole my voice. And I wasn't allowed to cry, and I wasn't allowed to scream, and I couldn't let anybody know, and I had to hide what was really going on.
Sometimes he rented her out to other men.
Somebody had slipped my stepfather a 10, and they could take me out to the camper on the back of his pickup truck if they wanted to, or I was just told whose lap to sit on and who to let play with this and who to get drinks for, and they'd get me high and they'd get me drunk.
It took her years before she finally got the courage to escape her stepfather.
I stopped off to look at a mobile home, telling me that he was going to get it for my mother. Will I go in there and look at them with him? And he chose the one way back off on the end. When we walked in, he asked me what I thought of it. Told him it was nice. He threw me to the ground. He assaulted me. And then he told me that the real reason he wanted the trailer was so that he could put me out on a piece of property and have his own special key so that we could have our own special parties.
Her dark journey continued with a long line of abusive boyfriends.
And I've had more weapons than I can ever possibly count pointed at my head. One tried to drown me and tied me up and held me captive in the bedroom, and that one even offered me out for $50 to a couple of people.
Illinois is one of the worst states when it comes to the number of reported cases.
I think if we're talking about sex trafficking specifically, it's going to look very similar to the signs of domestic violence or sexual abuse, and again, we have to remember that it's going to look different with each case, so it's not like we have these hard facts of this is what human trafficking looks like.
After hearing stories like Patricia's, Congressman Rodney Davis is working to help sex trafficking victims.
We've passed numerous bills, and some of them are as simple as, providing techniques to law enforcement officials to recognize human trafficking victims. But we've also made sure that those websites that advertise these victims for sale, they aren't able to do that. It's simple things like that that we're trying to kind of clamp down on the access.
Almost 50 years after first being sexually assaulted, Patricia wants to help others find their voice.
And you just have to look at yourself and say, it happened. It's okay. You got this, and you're going to make it. One day at a time. Sorry.
In Decatur, Lexie Ratterman, WAND News.
The flags are, to me, very special.
Those special flags traveled to 14 states honoring fallen military men and women and first responders.
Kind of one of them deals that gives the community another chance to say thanks.
With a silent thank you, the lives of the fallen are remembered forever, like Logan Palmer, the reason for the flagman's last Central Illinois visit.
Everybody comes out, takes pictures of them, it goes on the internet, and that means they're going to be remembered forever. And as long as these flags are remembered, guess who else is remembered? Logan, or our hero. So that means a lot to me.
But Larry doesn't do any of this alone.
Over the past few years, we've worked with about 60,000 volunteers. And believe it or not, they have put up 489,000 flags. Now that's a lot of flags.
He says he does it for the people he gets to meet and all of those he gets to honor.
We actually got to decorate part of Constitution Avenue, and that was beyond special. I had never been to D.C., so we got to spend a couple days there, and it was just being able to put a flag up in D.C. was something special, not only for me, but I figured it represented all the guys that I buried over the years. They were remembered in the nation's capital on that day. You can't beat it.
WAND wanted to recognize the flagman for all that he has done for our community's fallen heroes.
You say you've never served, but you have been in Central Illinois multiple times serving our soldiers who have passed on and our first responders. And for that, we know you're not from Central Illinois, but WA&D would like to give you our Spirit of Central Illinois Award.
Thank you so much. That is cool.
You've done so much for our community.
But it should go to all my volunteers, really. Because without my volunteers, nothing happens. But that is so cool. Thank you very much, and thank your station for me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So welcome.
In Decatur, Lexie Ratterman, WA&D News.